Hello, this is Steve, your YouTube English teacher for Cambridge exams, and today we are writing a report. It's a great time to do this, isn't it? It's the end of the school year if you are studying, or maybe the end of high season if you're working in something, or the start if you're working in tourism, I guess. But the point is, you might be looking back and thinking what went well and what could be improved for next year, and that's the point of a report that you have to write for your C1 part 2 of the writing. You don't have to, but it's one of the choices, and it's a good choice because it's very formulaic. So we'll go through what makes a good structure. We'll look at examples. You can have a sample task, which is what's on the screen right now in front of you. A report for your teacher who wants to know how you thought the course went this year, with the good and bad points and suggestions for improvements next year. A very typical report. Your report is pretty much always going to be like this. It might not be about the year at school. It might be about a trip you went on. It might be about some kind of exhibition that you visited, something like that, something you did that you want to say what went well and what could be better next time. That's normally the structure. So we've got a couple of activities to do today. Firstly, I'm going to remind you of this, that the report should look like this. You don't need to read it, you just need to sort of zoom out and think, okay, I've very clearly got a title, an introduction, the main points, and a conclusion, which is normally going to be recommending what we do, the suggestion. So it should look like that. But as I said, don't even read it. That's just some random example from some random website. Let's get into the details then. This one's a bit more specific. As always in my classes, I'm going to give you samples, but I'm not just going to throw them at you and say, there you go, now you do it. No, we need to actually use it, really make the most of it. So what I've got here is the first 2 paragraphs of a report which is related to a school trip to a science museum. Imagine you went on a trip to a science museum, which I'm sure almost everybody in the modern developed world did at some point. And for some reason, your teacher has asked you to write a report about it. Maybe your teacher is having a crisis of confidence and is not sure about doing it next year, and they want your opinion. Obviously, they value your opinion. So you write a report for your teacher. This is the introduction and the positive aspects, and its use of English part 2. So you need to complete the blanks using one word. There is normally one correct answer. There may be a couple of other options at some points. And as you read it, you're doing use of English part 2. You're also thinking what it's saying, what makes this a good report. So it is a good report. It's very clear, it makes its points. Why? What are the points? How does it do it? Take a few minutes to do this. As always with these videos, you will get a lot more out of them if you actually do it. Don't just look at it and think, oh, that's pretty. Oh, I knew all of that. No, pause the video, do it yourself. You probably don't know all of it. These are like C1 level questions. Anyway, here are the answers. Number 1, you can say on or about, because that means the report is related to on this subject. Number 2, you benefit from something, don't you? That's the preposition with benefit. And number 3, we must have which. We must have which because this is a non-defining relative pronoun, isn't it? There's a comma, you're just adding extra information. Number 4, you have an opportunity to do something. And number 5, this is a very common C1 phrase, a few, meaning some. It must be a few. I can't think of anything else that fits there. Number 6, oh, this is an easy one, such as, but sometimes you have a gimme, you have a freebie, a gimme, give me that point. Number 7, this is also pretty easy. Context, the guides, they are people, they were knowledgeable. And how did they explain it? In a way, or way is the best answer. But if you said manner or fashion, I'll accept that as well. And as we said, it's a pretty clear introduction. We're talking about the school trip, we're saying it's good, we're saying why, and we're saying it could be improved. Then the positive aspects, again, pretty clear. Clear examples, the experiments, the sections, fun, guides, super detailed, clear, is a good report. Let's continue, because as you can see, this is not a full report. We need to talk about the areas for improvement and the suggestions for next year. We will do that with use of English part 3. So you need to transform this word. This is the root. You need to transform it so that it fits the sentence. Take a few minutes. Again, read it, understand it. I'm saying there's 2 things to do, aren't I? Read and understand the report as a report, appreciate what makes a good report, and also do the use of English. But they're connected, because if you actually understand what the report is saying, what it means, this will really help you with use of English part 3, because the context will help you get the answer. So do both those things. And here come the answers. Number 1, if it's an area for improvement, we're talking about the bad things, the disadvantages. Another word for that with side, and this is a bit of a difficult one, but it's downside, a disadvantage. Number 2, typical question, we're adding information. We have a comma. This is clearly an introductory adverb. It's additionally. Number 3, again, we're going to need an adverb. How are you eating? Comfortably. Number 4, oh, I've messed up the lines here, haven't I? As you can see, number 4 should be hurry. This one was very easy. It's hurried. That's too easy, to be honest. But I had to find 8 questions, didn't I? Number 5, which should be from last, is similar to additionally, but a little bit more unusual. I thought maybe there's a trick here, but there isn't. Lastly. Number 6, you have a couple of options. I think the easy one is personal, but you can also say personalized attention. Both of those, I think, are acceptable. Number 7, typical one, adjustment, plural, because there's no article here, so minor adjustments. And number 8, another very typical one, benefit, beneficial with a C. So there we go. And again, it's very clear, isn't it? We've got clear problems that are quite easy to fix, as in the lunch break, the too many people. So next year, make the visit longer, organise it better with small groups, very, very clear. And then overall, very nice, very good. So it's a good report. Right, there we go. We've seen a sample, but we're not quite going to go on to you writing your own report yet, because again, I want to really dive down. In my classes, I like to really think, get inside your brain. What is going to be difficult for you? Hopefully, it should be quite easy to think of an idea for the report. The Science Museum was too busy. That's a clear idea. You've got that idea, but the Science Museum was too busy is not going to give you loads of marks in a report if you write that in your C1 exam. So we're thinking about how to take an idea and turn it into a really high-level sentence. So here are some typical ideas you'd want to express in a report. The report that I showed you at the start that you would be writing about evaluating your first year of your course, or the year you just did. So the aim, the reasons why, arguments in favour of an online student platform, for example, introducing that idea. Saying that, yes, it's expensive, but it's worth it. It's a common thing you'd say in a report. And then saying, like a sort of concluding sentence, we need to make a lot of changes. So here's some typical ideas. Then what I did in class, and feel free to do this yourself, is a fun activity for teachers or pairs of students out there. I wrote my version of the sentence, and then I asked ChatGPT to write its version of the sentence. Can you tell the difference? So there you go. These are the first 2 ideas. As we said, the aim of the report and why I'm writing it. Which sentence was written by me, a human, an English teacher? Which sentence was written by ChatGPT? What do you think? Write in the comments. Or don't. Doesn't make a difference, does it? I don't know. In the first pair of sentences, that's by ChatGPT. The first one is ChatGPT. This one is mine. I guess why it's a bit more mine is this student's perspective is quite nice. I think that's a nice way of thinking about it. It's a bit more of a realistic way of writing. I am the student. I didn't tell ChatGPT that it was a student, so maybe it didn't think it was a student, but I know I was a student, so I wrote it. It's a more realistic report. For the second pair, read them. What do you think? The second sentence is ChatGPT. The first one is, again, a bit more human because I'm acknowledging the good work done by the university. ChatGPT wouldn't do that. It's a soulless, cold monster, isn't it? But I would be nice and polite in a report. I'm giving this to my boss, and I don't want to say, you're an idiot, you need to change everything. No, I'm going to say, you've done loads of good work, but there are some things that could be a bit better. That's good thinking for a report. Make it realistic, and you will normally be able to express the idea in a more convincing way that gives you more marks in the exam. The third one was this point about the student platform. Which one is me? Which one is ChatGPT? What do you think? The second one is ChatGPT. There's a couple of points. The semicolon is very ChatGPT, quite a long sentence, whereas I've divided it into 2 to make it easier to read. A report should be easy to read, shouldn't it? And then maybe my idea about UI is quite nice, user interface. Specific detail is normally a bit more human. And again, giving an example, booking meetings with professors. As a student, I know this is important, so I'm going to use that as an example. ChatGPT maybe doesn't know that, although I guess it should. Next two. The first one, the one about it's expensive but it's worth it. Which one is ChatGPT? Which one is me? This one I think might be a bit easier. The first one is ChatGPT. Really interesting little language point here. It may incur considerable expense. It's a great expression, and if you wrote it in your Cambridge exam, I'm sure people would say, wow, that's really good. That's a correct collocation, to incur expense. You've used the adjective well. But on the other hand, you can just write be expensive. It's the same point, isn't it? So maybe sometimes more simple is more effective. And again, being a bit more human, talking about time and stress of students, because a student platform, it's worth it for these reasons. And then finally, which one is me, which one is ChatGPT? Think back to the first or second one about what's a more human answer. The second one is ChatGPT. The only reason I can give is when I was writing it, I was thinking, again, I want them to listen to me. I want them to apply what I've said in my report. So I'm going to tell them that if you do this, you will continue to offer a world-class student experience. As the great university that you are, you want to do this. ChatGPT was a bit more blunt, wasn't it? But anyway, I thought that was an interesting example, a nice activity. If you can take an idea like that and express it clearly, develop it, give examples, give detailed reasons, you're making your writing better. ChatGPT can give you examples of how to do that, and also you can practice yourself, just thinking about making it realistic. If you were really writing a report for your teacher, how would you write it? If you really wanted them to listen, how would you write it? Okay, so we'll finish with a quick bit of speaking as always. This is a quick speaking part 3 for B2 or C1. That should really help you think of the kind of things you would be writing about in your report. So you need to talk together about how these things ensure students enjoy their classes. And these are the kind of things that could be improved in most classes. No one's perfect. So as always, 20 seconds per person, make your point. What do you think? Do you agree? Yes, move on, and keep it dynamic, keep it conversational. And then use some of these ideas in your report if you want to. And this is the report, so 260 words for C1. Use the structure we saw, make clear points, send it to Santa Claus, send it to me, and I will mark it for a very small fee. That's enough about reports. Have a nice week. Goodbye.